Have you down next, do you want
I'll give
Look.
a 5-minute update.
to? Okay.
I'll get that to you later today. You can send it out to membership.
As usual, nothing's gone on in the city, that's it, good, bye. We have had some interesting subjects of late at city council, and we're having more city council meetings than we typically do because we are in the budget time. And we are lowering your tax rate, but we are not lowering your property taxes because of the fact of all the appraisal increases. Your property taxes will still be higher. We are lowering the tax rate by 4 cents. So we're going from 40 cents, 44 to 40 cents, 44.0388. So we are lowering the tax rate by 4 cents, but not lowering your property taxes. But we are actually as close as we have ever been to a no new net revenue rate, which would mean your taxes would actually not, they would stay flat, stay the same. I mean, we do live with some of the things which I'm glad about. The state has done with putting a tax cap before we have to go to a vote of the people, which is 3.5 cents. But that it's already gone through 2 hearings. Our next meeting is on Thursday. If you want to make any comments, that would be a good time to come. We were able at the last council meeting to get the bond for the port approved. So you have to understand the Port of Galveston is not a taxing entity. So they have to generate revenues to be able to move forward, to expand, to be able to bring in cruise ships, to be able to bring in cargo ships, to repair their piers and so forth. And that's where I compliment Roger Rees, our port director, who was just recently awarded one of the top CEOs in the Houston Business Journal in this area. And if you go in and read the article, it's among an amazing crowd because of his great management skills, his ability to run the finances at the port, and I think he's doing an amazing job, and I will support him 100% all the time. So the $51 million bond that passed will be paid for by the cruise lines. In this case, it's Carnival. Carnival is bringing in their newest, largest boat to the port of Galveston, which will be the first time in the history of Carnival that they're actually launching a ship somewhere other than Florida. So that is really a nice, wonderful. I'm still so wrapped up from the last conversation. It's an excellent thing that will happen. They actually have the Texas Star on the front of the boat. And so the port has advanced some monies to Pier 25 to make the improvements that were necessary to bring that boat in. The Carnival will be reimbursing the port 83% of those costs, and the differential will come from the cash flow of the port, and the port is cash flowing very nicely. And actually, aside from cruise ships being up, cargo is also up. I mean, there are some parts of cargo that aren't, like grain and I think cattle. But windmills, roll on, roll off, all that is up. We are, if you watched the last council workshop, we have a street study going on. The street study is being done once again, something that has changed since I've been on council. They used to do street studies or drainage studies, and they would divide it by 6, since we have 6 council districts. The issue with that is my district is 20 miles long, which is why we were always so much further behind the rest of the island. Now they actually look at the severity, and that's why we've seen more street projects, drainage projects, and so forth. Things are moving forward with our working with GLO to look at what we can do for the beaches, which is why I think it's so important that we all work closely together. I don't know, what am I missing? I'll open it up for questions. Peggy, am I missing anything?
I'm following the impeachment hearings. They're coming in.
Oh, they are coming in?
10:30 breaking news, they're gonna start voting. But anyway, short-term rentals, you might want to talk a little
Oh,
bit
short-term rentals, there's not a task force or an official task force, but we do have myself, Councilmember Figlia, and Taz, and a few other people. We're going to be doing a pseudo task force to look at how we can, a lot of the things we can do to regulate short-term rentals are controlled by the state. So basically, they're out of our hands. Such as, I know someone over here said, can we limit the occupancy and so forth? And we cannot by state law. But this brilliant man over here, I'd like to take credit for it, but there is a way that we can limit the occupancy in short-term rentals that are on septic tanks. Because the state law only allows so many people to occupy a house that's on a septic tank. So that's going to be one of the very first things that we're looking at. We also have an ordinance in place that when a short-term rental signs up, they have to supply a parking plan. So it would be how many people they have in, they can fit in their driveway, and then they have to show where they're providing parking for excess cars. And it can't be on your neighbor's lawn. The unfortunate thing that currently the park board signs up the short-term rentals. They're not always aware of the city ordinances. So we're working closely to make sure when they're collecting the data, one of the questions is, are you on septic? So then we can say, well, you're 2-bedroom, you're on XYZ size septic tank, your house is limited to 2 + 2 per bedroom, 2 adults, 2 children. So that is something that will actually work to our benefit. We are looking at them adding a thing in to get the parking plan so we can start implementing that, and other things where we can creatively work to benefit our citizens that we won't end up in Texas appeals court. So, any other questions on that? Do we now? I know now that I heard they're making a decision at 10:30. I want to wrap this up. No.
Marie, you know this RV park? It's like a country club, just up the road here.
The one.
Past Jamaica Beach. There's a buckle in the highway.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The highway is actually TxDOT. But with the heat, we've seen, they call them heaves, we've seen a lot of buckles. So it's right in front of,
Yeah, it's right, it's near.
Just before you get to Indian Beach.
okay,
It's heading east.
Heading east.
heading east, okay. I'll report that to the manager and to TxDOT today, so we can get them out. We had like 3 or 4 on
there's
the
more.
seawall. Yep, thanks.
So, I'm in Pines Beach, and I have a good time here, I'm not really good on the details, but I noticed they're repaving, certain areas. And is there some plans to repave some other areas there in Pirates Beach?
I don't have the list with me today on the roads that are being done, but I think with the street study, it was identified the roads that were the most critical. If you have an issue, feel free to text me what that is and I can get you an answer. I know not all the streets are going to be done. They were addressing the most severe streets and doing a mill and overlay. But at the same time, they're addressing large potholes or areas where there are issues. Which street are you on?
Well, I'm off of as you go, east, past the town park, there's a rough section there. It's rough.
Text me that, because I think that is being addressed. It's 409 256.
Let me just put it in my notes.
Sure.
It'll be in the notes after this.
It'll be what?
It'll be in the notes after.
256 4518.
Okay.
And it's always great to text me, because I'll tell you, I can't go anywhere without hearing at least 3 to 4 to 5 complaints. Even from my bestest of friends, they're like, I hate to do this at a party. I don't like to talk about politics. But did you know at 53rd and blah, 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 there is a, I'm like, no, but don't expect me to remember that. We are at a party. So text it to me, please. You're welcome. Any other questions?
There you go.
Oh, sorry.
Watering the palm trees.
Watering the palm trees. We are watering the palm trees.
Lost so many palm trees right there.
We are not the people who put those palm trees in, nor are we the people who put that sod in without irrigation. That was a TxDOT project. So we are starting a arts and beautification. We're putting different art around, and I suggested that in some of those areas, I don't know what I'm near that's making that happen. In some of those areas, we look at putting some art projects that won't take away from your visibility when you're driving. But the watering that is being done by the city. The palm trees and the sod were put in by TxDOT.
They need water.
No, they have never watered them. It's like if they would have asked us from the beginning, we would have watered them. But we do have a request in for them to take out the current dead ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. You're doing a great job. Well, now we'll go to Sally Bagel, who's going to talk about the Gulf Coast Protection District. You've heard a lot about it already, so.
Yeah, you have, and I'll be brief. We did not have a September meeting due to several of our board members being on travel. We will have our next board meeting on October 11th. Which is the second Wednesday of the month. It'll be in Seabrook on 5000 NASA Road 1. I'll send the information to Jerry so that he can get the agenda to you. Right now, I think we talked about most of what I wanted to mention, and just right now the focus is that bipartisan infrastructure law funding and doing what we can to access that money. It will be the fastest money to go through the appropriations process. I don't know if any of you pay attention to the news in Washington, it's painful, and it's going to get more painful. And, you know, our best bet on an annual appropriations basis would be FY25. And in all reality, even if we were to get something in the FY25 appropriations process, like an earmark, like Congressman Weber attempted earlier this year for FY24, looking at FY25, it would be a year and a half potentially before we'd actually see the money, because of both the political difficulties that exist in Washington, as well as just the time frame for the federal appropriations process. So in my view, that bipartisan infrastructure law money is our best bet, is our fastest bet. And I had the opportunity to speak briefly with Congressman Weber yesterday, and he is going to be talking with Representative Lizzie Fletcher and Representative Sylvia Garcia. As Democrats, they can communicate best with the current administration and the Office of Management and Budget, and put forth how this project addresses their priorities, and hopefully we can leverage some money that way. But right now, that is the main focus, because as I mentioned, I was very frank with the ASA and the chief about come 2025, and Representative Leo Wilson as a member, and me as a person advocating for the city of Galveston, we have to be able to tell this legislature something. And it must be something other than we don't have any federal funding. So that is where we're at. And we're just working hard, and we're pulling in all of our stakeholders, both private and public, and helping us carry this message. In fact, I'm going to go to Austin on Monday to sit down and talk to the insurance industry, because they have skin in this game. You know, the U.S. Senate Committee on Banking, Housing and Urban Affairs Development, had a hearing just last week talking about property insurance, its impact on consumers. And let me tell you, a big topic discussed was resiliency. And, you know, I think there was across the board agreement by the insurance representatives in that hearing that resiliency has got to be a top priority. And so, you know, my hope is we will enlist the insurance industry as a stakeholder in this, and helping us advocate further for additional funding. So, October 11th, 10 a.m. in Seabrook, and Jerry will have the agenda information that we can share with you. And thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Sally. Okay, we're getting there. Craig Vance on BMAC report.
Yeah, so less than 1 minute update. We didn't have a meeting in September. Our next meeting is the first Friday of October at 9 a.m. in the Park Board building downtown. Everybody's welcome to come and attend. We will be meeting this in October to go over our work plan for the next session. So we'll be bringing ideas and thoughts to the table to discuss. One of my things that I'm going to bring up is increased vehicle traffic on the beach that are non-drivable beaches. So we've seen a lot of that. I have contacted them and Marie as well. We did get new signs, additional signs put in, specifically at Terramar Beach, and that has tended to help. But once you get one, everybody else sees it and starts going as well. So, but that's going to be something I'm going to talk about, and then obviously trash collection and things like that. But anyway, just invite everybody to come if you're interested in that as we get going. And we'll have a report next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Well, that's about it we have for our meeting today, and I can't thank you enough. Lieutenant Colonel Ian Sullivan. Excellent presentation. A lot of great information. We welcome you to come back again too. Our next meeting is going to be October 28th. It's usually the third Saturday of the month, but there's a big golf outing going the third Saturday next month. So we're having it a week later. And you'll be pleased to hear from our state representative, Terry Leo Wilson, who's our guest speaker that day. And she has done an incredible job. I saw her at the Galveston Pachyderm Club presentation, and wonderful work that she has done for her first time in Austin. Outside of that, if there's any other questions, we're adjourned. Thank you again for coming.